Shrinking's 10 Funniest Characters. Ranked. Apple TV's Shrinking, which debuted in 2023, has evolved significantly over the past few seasons, with some characters bringing more comedy to the series than others. Shrinking has become one of the streaming platform's biggest successes, with Jason Segel, Harrison Ford, and Jessica Williams starring as a trio of therapists working through their deepest personal and difficult professional issues together. Shrinking's specific blend of humor, heart, and emotional honesty has helped it stand out in an increasingly crowded streaming landscape. Following Jimmy Laird Segel as he works through the grief of losing his wife, the show grapples with some incredibly intense subject material from within his storyline, as well as Paul Rhodes Ford. Paul, who's dealing with an advancing case of Parkinson's disease, brings another layer of drama. Throughout its 3-season run, Shrinking has seamlessly blended comedy with deeply emotional storytelling, refusing to shy away from the levity of the tough moments. Humor becomes a crucial tool for navigating pain on Shrinking, creating a show that feels both grounded and uplifting at the same time. The balance between those two elements is where the Apple TV series truly thrives. The characters use humor, not just for laughs, but as a coping mechanism, a way to connect, and sometimes even a way to avoid confronting difficult truths. Whether it's sharp dialogue, awkward honesty, or absurd situations, the comedy in Shrinking often lands hardest precisely because it exists alongside such raw emotional stakes. Ultimately, it's the characters themselves who bring that balance to life. Each member of the ensemble contributes a unique comedic voice, shaping the show's tone in different ways. Some lean into sarcasm, others into chaos or sincerity, but all of them play a role in making Shrinking as funny as it is heartfelt. Originally introduced as a neurologist specializing in Parkinson's, Wendy Malick's Dr. Julie Baram has become an integral part of Shrinking's story. Julie and Paul's relationship may begin as one between a doctor and patient, but it quickly grows into something more as the series continues. Julie's ability to connect with a curmudgeonly Paul seems easy despite his advancing condition, while Malick, who is known for her roles on Just Shoot Me and Hot in Cleveland, has impeccable comedic timing, and her work with Ford on the series has been exciting to watch. Bringing heart and humor to a difficult storyline, Julie may not always be intentionally funny, but her sense of humor is consistently clear. As Shez continued through the show, Jimmy's daughter, Alice Laird Lukita Maxwell, has grown up and dealt with some tremendously heavy emotions. Throughout the early seasons of the series, Alice grappled with her mother's sudden death and her father's inability to grieve in a healthy way. As she moved through her own grief, Alice's story often grounded Jimmy's inner circle. While Alice isn't meant to be an inherently funny part of Shrinking, bringing the teenage angst into the equation did bring a sense of levity to the show. Maxwell's timing and ability to infuse heartfelt moments with a sense of humor and fun makes her character a fun one to watch. Shawn, Luke Tenney, a patient who embraces a new style of therapy and finds himself living in Jimmy's backyard, as a result, is a veteran who often struggles to keep his emotions in check. Shawn's behavior isn't always easy to watch, and while he has rational reasons for his issues, his storyline is often a tough one to watch. Thankfully, a lot of Shawn's interactions with Jimmy and Alice make for some lighter fare as Shrinking continues. As Shawn ingrains himself deeper into the group of the cast, he becomes a character that fuels the story with a funny, honest sense of humor and a touch of social awkwardness. Image via Apple TV. A friend of Alice's summer, Rachel Stubington, is a recurring presence in her life for better or worse. Throughout the early seasons of Shrinking, Summer provided a sense of comedic relief when it came to the darkness of Alice's storyline. With a bold, brazen personality and a complete lack of filter, Summer's behavior is meant to oppose Alice's, making her a funny part of the series. Stubington is able to play Summer with a youthful sense of frenetic energy that counters Alice's grounded demeanor well. Throughout the show's seasons, Summer has consistently added a burst of comedy to Alice's or Jimmy's storyline when it's desperately needed. Jimmy may be the center of Shrinking's story, but as the main character has also someone who has to be tremendously grounded. While Segel plays Jimmy in various stages of grief, after the loss of his wife, his performance is nuanced and often funny in quiet moments that are meant to play to the viewer, not to the story as a whole. Segel brings a mix of emotional depth and comedic instinct to Jimmy that allows the character to feel entirely formed. A fair bit of Jimmy's laughs come from how inappropriate his methods at work can be, often leading to chaotic or awkward situations. At the same time, Jimmy's self-awareness and vulnerability ensure that the humor never feels detached from the character's emotional journey. Image, via Apple TV, brought into the story as an estranged friend of Jimmy, Brian Michael Urie, is one of the funniest parts of Shrinking. A lawyer who frequently becomes entangled in the personal lives of those around him, Brian's own relationship struggle, and progress are a big part of what propels Shrinking forward. As someone with a dramatic personality and strong opinions, Brian is consistently hilarious. Yuri is able to play Brian as a high-energy character, and with his impeccable timing, his rapid-fire dialogue always hits the mark. Brian's humor often stems from his tendency to overreact or insert himself into situations that don't necessarily involve him. At the same time, his loyalty and emotional openness make him more than just comic relief, adding depth. Liz Bishop Krista Miller is originally seen to be Jimmy's nosy neighbor who's taken on a mothering role for Alice after her mother's death. While Liz is happy to help Jimmy, her disposition often says otherwise. A woman devoted to tough love, Liz is outspoken, confident, and often brutally honest, which makes her one of Shrinking's most reliable sources of humor. Miller delivers Liz lines with sharp precision, often turning simple observations into biting comedic moments. Liz's humor frequently comes from her bluntness and her willingness to challenge those around her, especially Jimmy. Her dynamic with her husband Derek also adds another layer of comedy, showcasing a long-term relationship filled with playful banter and mutual understanding. While Gaby Evans Jessica Williams is a friend and colleague of Jimmy's on Shrinking, her storyline ultimately becomes far more than a supporting one. As one of Jimmy's closest friends who ultimately finds herself spiraling in grief alongside him after his wife, who was her best friend, dies, Gaby's story becomes messier when she decides to sleep with Jimmy herself. Gaby's confident, charismatic, and often the voice of reason, even though she is just as capable of contributing to the wider chaos. Williams brings a vibrant comedic presence to the role, using timing, delivery, and physical comedy to elevate even small moments on Shrinking. Starring in the role of a lifetime on Shrinking, Harrison Ford plays Paul Rhodes, Jimmy's mentor and colleague. A highly respected therapist in his own right, Paul's dealing with a Parkinson's diagnosis throughout the series, a layer that adds nuance to his performance and remarkably comedy. Despite the seriousness of his storyline, Paul is one of the show's funniest characters, thanks to his dry, understated humor. Ford plays Paul with a restrained comedic style, often delivering deadpan lines that contrast with the more expressive characters around him. His humor typically comes from sarcasm, blunt honesty, and subtle reactions rather than overt jokes. Ford's approach makes his comedic moments feel natural and often more impactful. Although has not always the main character, Derek Bishop Ted McGinley is widely considered the funniest character on Shrinking. Liz's husband and Jimmy's neighbor, Derek's a recent retiree who's known for his positivity, enthusiasm, and nearly unshakable good nature, which creates a unique comedic dynamic within the show. McGinley plays Derek with warmth and charm, allowing the humor to come from his sincerity rather than sarcasm. His interactions with Liz are especially funny, as he often responds to her bluntness with calm support or unexpected optimism. Derek's ability to remain kind and upbeat in nearly every situation makes him a standout comedic presence on Shrinking.